Hey guys, it's Adam here. I'm just jumping on a call with Belinda Smith, who is an absolute gun in property. She's done a number of renovations over the years, transacted heaps of properties, and now jumping into the development space. So Belinda is doing it for all the ladies out there that
Woohoo!
maybe are scared to jump into the property space or have to ask permission for the husbands. But Belinda, I would really love to hear about your story, how you got started in property, and I suppose what's led you to the space that you're in now at the moment. And I know you came from a corporate career initially. You quit that job a number of years ago. Would love to hear when that was and how you managed to get out of that career path and onto something bigger and better. But thanks so much for being on, and I really appreciate you jumping on and
You, Adam.
talking to all of us.
Thank you for having me. Yes, I started really getting involved in property from a young age. Mum and Dad did a reno flip when I was a child. I thought it was the
Yeah,
worst
awesome.
experience of my life because I was there on the weekends when I could have been hanging out at Cronulla Beach with all of my friends. But looking back, it was a real blessing learning from Mum and Dad, just that you can actually get an old property and you can do it up and you can make some money on it for a bit of extra pocket money or to prepare for retirement. And then when I was very, very young, I met my husband. I knew him through school. We were childhood sweethearts, and we married at 22 and 23, but we were together from when I was about 18. And our first venture
That
was
was only a couple of years ago now.
very funny. I won't tell you what birthday I just had. It's scary. And then we started to do our first renovation in 1985. And we bought a unit, a little old unit at Cronulla, and we had to do it. It smelled like baby's vomit. It was really, really dirty. My mother-in-law wasn't impressed, but I'd
Yeah.
seen what Mum and Dad did to their house, that investment property, and Mum and Dad had always changed, their own rooms around and improved the way that they lived just through paint and adding colours and a few bits and pieces. So I understood that there was a reason and a purpose and that you could make some really good money. And also I found it very joyful and creative to add, some colours and bits and pieces and bring something up to date. And we had that unit at Cronulla. We bought it, I hope, yeah, okay, I do know my figures are right. 53,000 we bought it. We spent less
Wow.
than 2,000 on the renovation. 53,000 is amazing. Spent less than 2,000 on the renovation,
Yeah.
and we sold it shortly after for 76,500. So
Wow.
straight away I thought, wow, back in the day when we were on our poorhouse wages and we were pretty broke, we weren't earning as much as we made in that very first property deal in a very short time. So
Wow,
my
that's
eyes,
amazing.
yeah, my eyes were wide open right from when Brett and I were first together. He was a mechanic by trade, and I was straight from school into the police force, and we really didn't earn very much money. We had no university degree behind us, so we knew that property was going to have to be it for us right from then.
Okay, so how long from when you did the first reno to when you actually decided to quit work? So you probably made a couple of years worth of wages in the first project by the sounds of it. And that was a very early win, a
Very
number of
early
years ago.
win. Yeah. And then we had, with the police force, there was really good maternity leave. So I did stick around until I had the kids. And then it just got to the point where my property investing was definitely out earning what my income was. And I found myself and my husband, we started to do courses back in about 2001. We got very, very serious. And so we probably have spent about $100,000 on property education, during those years, including yours and your courses. And I just think
Okay.
that
Mine wasn't 100,000, by the way, for those people wondering.
um, I know it's mine just quietly, but it's money well spent. People just
Yeah.
wonder why you would invest in your property education or anybody would do it. But every time I've ever spent a few $1,000s on a course, that money has come back at me tenfold.
Yeah.
And property's just been a really nice part of Brett and my journey. And we're addicted to real estate, like a lot of people who are listening to this.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, thanks for the background. It takes, I suppose, somebody that's really not arrogant. Maybe there was a better term for that. But I've spoken to a lot of people that are like, oh, I've done one property, or I've been investing in property for 20 years. I don't need your course, or I don't need to learn anymore. And I just think, that's really fantastic. That's a very arrogant approach to just your whole education, just moving forward as a person. If you were at the level that you'd already be at, you wouldn't need it, but everyone still learns as they go. So what made you decide to spend money on your own education when you already had some pretty substantial wins, even up until that point, up until
I think
2001, you said?
Yeah, no, you're spot on. I just think that there is an arrogance to some people, and I always believe that you don't know what you don't know. And every time I've taken on somebody's property course, I've learned something else that's really important. I've mastered an extra skill that I can pop into my toolkit and use for whatever I want it to be, whether it be, a development, or whether it be renovation, or just, strategies in relation to buying property better and buying it for less and sourcing money from, thinking outside the box. You just learn. And yeah, you are so right that some people think, oh, I've had some success, I've kicked some goals, so I'm right, I'm on my way. And I think, what are you really missing out on? I've actually got a really good friend who'd flipped multiple properties and had never really invested in education. And I could see massive holes in her journey and what she could have done and should have done that would have really escalated her progress beyond. And she was doing quite well, but she just would have just been a phenomenal success much earlier had she invested in some higher level education on property investment.
Yeah. So since then, since like 2001, what sort of properties have you done, and what led you to going from, well, you already are a teacher and you teach other people how to do renovations, but why did you join a development program and go from teacher to student again, just even in the last however long it's been, maybe 12 months or 18 months with me?
Simply because you've got knowledge that I don't. You can fill in some gaps that I haven't really utilized. Like, for example, options. I just go and buy property, and just learning how to get. I was going to say get money from people. That's a terrible thing to say. To get some really good agreements with money partners, what other people in the industry are doing, just, to be in amongst it. If you're not in a community all the time, if you're not learning and growing, then you're just repeating what you already know. And there's opportunity out there that can be missed if you're just repeating what you already know. And so that's why I did it. And also, even my husband and I, like, we'd done course after course in the early 2000s, and then we hadn't joined a community for about 8 years. And one day I just had one of those ads pop up of a free event in Parramatta. So we went to that course and we joined that guy just because we got stale. We actually got stale and we started to slow down. And when you get stale and you slow down, you actually lose momentum. When you lose momentum, you lose opportunity, and you lose the opportunity to advance and to, make greater profits, and just to be busy and fulfilled, I guess.
Yeah.
Got to find the tribe.
So one question that popped into my mind just listening to you talk, you probably could have retired a number of years ago by the sounds.
Yeah.
What's keeping you going? What's your reason for keep on learning and doing another project? And you were just talking about being literally living amongst another project. Is it like the fun of it? Is it enjoyable for you? Is it the chase? Is it that you're giving all your money away to charity?
I honestly, when you talk about giving money away to charity, the margins of profit on my renovation business are pretty slim because I'm way more generous than a lot of people are with their time and their courses and what they give back to their student group. I am prepared, because I have done okay personally. I am prepared to be more generous, which is it's a really nice position to be in. And I'm just wired that way. The thought of hanging around with other women my age and doing coffee every afternoon and talking about other people or bags or shoes or like that just drives me absolutely insane. It bores me to tears. I'm just wired differently. And even if I stopped doing what I was doing now, I'd find something else to throw myself into it. And the kids say the same. They know me really well and say, Mum, if you stopped doing what you're doing. You'd be bored and then you'd be
Yeah.
annoying.
Yeah. So
So
they're encouraging you to do it.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
think I'll still be somehow engaged in the property game into my 70s. And I know some people who are still really actively developing and renovating and doing things in their 70s and 80s. You just do things a little bit differently. Like hubby and I on this renovation, we can feel our bodies getting a little bit more older and tired and more tired. And so we just, we just hand a lot more stuff over to the builders, even though we are the original DIYers, like every hammer, every nail, every
Wow.
piece of gyprock. We've done it that way because I call it old school poorhouse way, because we had to do it that way. And so we learnt on the tools. And so we're eager to get in. We actually really enjoy it, but we're getting older and tireder. And, is it the best use of our time now, or should we be doing other bolder projects?
Yeah, okay. Awesome. So what projects are you working on at the moment?
So at the moment, I'm doing this renovation first. Like that's all I can think about, because I've got the students in my group and I'm also running my own renovation. It's just a lot. Like during the Christmas break when everybody was taking it easy, I really designed and purchased stuff for 6 bathrooms, and
Wow.
so I just use every minute that I have. And
Now,
I guess
your reno is not an average reno either. So
okay, so my reno is I'm in a high end area of Sydney, I'll call it that. And there's expectations, there's market expectations for a renovation in my particular suburb. And I need to meet those market expectations. But I'm smart enough to know that I don't have to spend, and I don't want to spend grand amounts of money on big brand product to meet those expectations. And there are ways that you can really create that vibe, that really nice opulent look in a property without going to a high-end spend. And so that's always the way I've done things. And so I'm taking the opportunity to do the same kind of thing with this property. And that excites me. I think that, when people are really rich and they hire interior designers and they just interior designers come through and they say, yes. That's no challenge. That really isn't any challenge. But the challenge is, for me, trying to create really nice looking property that will, value up or will price really well on the market if it comes to the point of sale, and not have spent every ounce of our retirement funds putting the look together. So I really enjoy it. I'm passionate about it. And so it's probably out of everything that I do, that's what I enjoy the most, is doing my own stuff.
Yeah, so your 6 bathroom house that you're doing, there was a development twist to it as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, definitely. And Adam, you spent a lot of time with me one night in front of the student group looking at all the ins and outs of my development. I've got approval for dual OC. I would love to have strata approval, so I've got the freedom to sell it off later on. Look, there's advantages of just running it as a dual OC. It will be my forever home. Or at least we think so, but I'll never say never. Somebody offered me a good price, I'd go in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that. Even my
Yeah.
husband, he knows it too. Somebody offered us good money, we'd be gone. But here are the basic figures. So the place is worth about 3.7 now. I'll spend 1.2 on the reno. And I've got we've got quantity surveyor reports on that amount. I did my own feasibility on it. The builder did his. So we're all coming up at the same figures. I know that's exactly where it's going to play out at. It'll be worth up 6. It'll be worth 6.
Wow.
Yeah. And the end that we rent out, if I do it nice enough, which I will, we'll rent out at about $2,300 per week. So Brett and I will just stay down one end and we'll rent out the other.
Yeah, that's just one side. That's not the side you're living in. And the side, and each side's what, 300 square meters or something?
It's 1,000 square meter block, and the build at the moment, it's 540 square meters at the moment, and we're adding double garage, but we're just changing a lot of internal space. So, but there's a lot of changes, and don't tell we're sneaking in a mezzanine. Shh.
All right, we'll snip that bit.
Snip that bit for anybody.
So it's those exempt development.
Yeah.
Those exempt development things that council don't ever see.
Yeah. That's
I'm sure so many homeowners sneak those in.
Who might sneak
especially.
in later.
Yeah, yeah. Pass the certifier. So yeah, that's a pretty substantial project, or at least a pretty substantial renovation.
Yeah,
So your numbers are what, 3.7, so it'll owe you about 5 at the end, and then it's worth about 6.
be worth about 6, but the income is what really lights me up, just having an extra 2,300 a week.
Yeah, yeah. Well, purely
Nice.
passive income from a project that you've built $1 million of equity in.
Yeah, yeah.
And then probably later they'll probably allow you to do, well, hopefully they'll allow you to strata it. I would think so. That's
Uh,
normally what happens, but
yeah, and every piece of advice that I've taken from you, from the council, from anybody else in relation to that is just do it first. Do it as if
yeah,
the strata permission had been granted. So we are building to it, and then we'll see what permissions we can get later on. I think there's a lot of pressure now on governments in every location
yeah,
to provide more housing. So that's really working in our favour. So we'll
yeah,
do
absolutely.
time, but honestly, it doesn't matter that much, really. You know, it'll be our forever home. So it'll probably matter more for the kids, or it would matter. It just gives us freedom, I think, to, you know, to sell one off if we wanted to go and do something else with that cash.
Yeah, yeah. Or refinance or
Yeah,
whatever that is. Sell it to an investor for both.
correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So for those people that are starting out, maybe more focused at the women, because I'm obviously male, so most of the people in my courses are between 30 and 45, 50 males, and then we have maybe 5 or 10% women at best. For
Yeah.
those people that are on the fence, whether it be just to jump into property, doesn't have to be in my course necessarily or yours. What do you think the biggest thing is that they should hear or that they need to listen to coming from your perspective, having been in the game for a long time?
I think they should start where they feel okay starting, like start on something reasonably that they feel like they can develop the skills to tackle. So whether that be a small development, a dual lock, or a
Yeah.
small townhouse development, just, people have these grand ideas about making millions of dollars and doing these great big things, and even taking on a renovation that's beyond them is not the place to start. Start wherever you feel comfortable and you know that you're going to stay married and that it's not going to be
Yeah.
overwhelming, and you're not going to have tears every night,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're not going to run into crazy high budgets. So, everybody's risk tolerance level is different. I think because I was in the police force for 21 years, I'm a bit brave. So I'm just that way. My husband is way more conservative, which is it's a really nice mix for us, because he pulls me back sometimes and says, hang on a minute, let's look at worst case scenario, and if this then that, if this then that. So he's really grounding for me, because I can be a bit jump out of an aeroplane type, with
Yes. Yeah.
test the parachute on the way down. So he's, as a couple, I think we draw on each other's positive attributes to support each other, but at the same time, to make good decisions that we're happy with and that we know won't lead us to any kind of anxiety or
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
There's
You,
always a plan B too. If we do something, there's
yeah.
always a plan B.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. You mentioned about being like a couple partnership as well. I know there are some partnerships, where the husband and wife do it together, and others where it's not.
Yeah.
Even from the first one you mentioned, you were a partnership. Do you think that has helped? Like, you sound like you have different skill sets, and you're still married, so
Yeah,
that's a positive. As in, you got through all those renovations together.
we did.
Do you guys work as a team together, or do you just run one and then your husband will do another one, or do you do it all together?
So we always work together, and we like physically work together. So we just go straight into reno mode. Like, even we haven't done one for a few years. I'd focused on my students, and then we've got
Yeah.
stuck into this, and we just go straight into our usual rhythm. And that is, Brett's on the tools. He's got every tool you could dream of downstairs in that workshop of his. It gives me a headache. But it's also very handy if you want to
Yeah.
find anybody runs out of a screw or a nail or a piece of quad or whatever, we've got it here. Just
Wow.
knock on my
Okay.
door. Yeah, so we've got a big storeroom with every tool that we could ever need. And we go straight into the process where I do the design. I've always got some kind of design in my mind. And I say, honey, let's do this. And he says, no, let's not. And then he goes, oh, okay, show me the picture. So I'll show him the magazine picture or whatever I've got that he can physically see. And then we'll go to Bunnings together, and I make sure I feed him first. And then so he's not hangry while he's shopping. And
There's a good secret there.
yeah, good secret. Have a feed first. And then we buy all the stuff, and then we come back, and he does a lot of the stuff with the tools, and I do the painting beforehand, the design. He puts it on, and I fix it up. And I call him my 90% guy. He will do things that are like, I'm not a perfectionist, but he does things, and he'll say that'll do, and I think no, we can just push it for quality finish just that little bit further. So I do the actual finishing off and the quality control, and that's how we've always worked. And we turn out nice projects, mine and client projects, and we don't argue. We just kind of get into it.
Yeah. Was it always like that? Like just thinking of other people going into partnership or doing it in a relationship?
Yeah.
Did you take a little while before it kind of like meshed together? Who was taking care of what?
I think that we grew up together, that we just kind of melded into it. We just met so young and started doing this so young. We just grew up together. So it was easier for us. Like now we are married for, I don't know, we got married in 86. What's the year? A long time. 86 to next month is our next anniversary. So we've been married for a while. Whereas if I know that people meet later on in life, and that takes a little while for each other to respect each other's attributes and qualities. And I think that's key, is to look at your partner and say, okay, what are they really good at? And what am I really good at? So what can we bring to the table in property development, property investing, and renovation together? And then who do we need to call upon to fill in the parts that we're not good at? And
I think that's a very good way of explaining that.
Yeah, and just and not expecting too much from someone. Like if somebody's really disorganized, you can't expect them to be organized on a renovation if there's not, if it's not in their nature.
Absolutely.
You have to step in and do. And if somebody they have decision fatigue, if somebody's really struggling to make a lot of fast decisions, then there might be some way that you can support them, either by making the decisions for them, or again, by thinking about who's in your network who can help them with that. Perhaps putting timeframes around the decisions and feeding them one decision to make at a time so they don't feel the overwhelm. So it's just, looking at each other and respect with respect, and going, okay, you're really good at that, but I'm really good at that. So let's split up those tasks, and also not criticize each other. Lol, it's hard. It's hard sometimes, But I see some people, especially perfectionists, really struggle with any kind of build work, I think, because all they'll see is the fault.
I'm guilty of that. I'll put my hand up for that one.
Actually, if I have a workshop and I say, who's a perfectionist in a room, I am blown away with the amount of hands that go up. So many people are guilty. And that can be a good thing, right? Because there's nothing worse than a rough build, and it's
absolutely
sale price. So you've got to have a certain standard. But if you're a perfectionist to the point of being a pain in the backside, then it just slows everything down. It can make everybody feel
Yeah, I'm definitely.
Or it can make a partner feel like they're never going to be good enough, or what they do is not good enough, and then they just stop trying.
I hear you. So just like you've got your own students, and I don't want to keep jumping into the same conversation, but I really just want to give people the idea of or behind the scenes of, I suppose, what it takes to not only just do a renovation, a development, transact property, buy multiple properties. You can be a perfectionist, you can not be a perfectionist. You mentioned before, which I thought was really good, you can be terrible at organizing people, but you can find somebody who is really good. Or you may not be good at making decisions, but you can find somebody who is good at making decisions, and the only decision you got to make is to hire them. Make one decision and they'll make the rest for you. In the students that you've seen and the courses that you've been involved with, I suppose, what have you seen that's been the biggest difference? Like if you could pinpoint one single thing that's the biggest difference between people doing stuff, or, you know, being successful versus not being successful?
Oh, easy,
What do you think that is? The number one?
easy answer. 3 words, have a crack.
Oh, I was like
That's
three.
honestly, that is the secret. Brett and I
Yeah.
went to New Zealand with a bunch of property investors back in 2003, and we were there to buy. We'd done all of our research here. We were just over there for low price, positive cash flow properties back in the day. We had everything set up in New Zealand. We had buyers agents with us. They were just taking us from property to property, and we were looking at 8 to 10 a day, and we
Wow.
did it for 4 days. So after 4 days, and because back then we could actually borrow 110%, can you believe it?
Wow.
So there was like no money down deals, which is great because we didn't have any money. We didn't have any money. Perfect for us.
Yeah.
And we went over there. We bought 4 properties in those 4 days.
Wow.
We just sat down at the end of the week and said, that one stacks up. That one's okay. That one's not perfect, but that'll do. There was a lady who sat on that bus and she did detailed feasibility studies on every single property, which is great. I like a good feaso. But
Yeah.
she was so caught up in the numbers and it was all going round and round in her head that she ended up not buying anything at all. And so did a lot of people on that bus. And I think, well, hang on a minute. We had the kids babysat for 5 days while we jumped on a plane and went over there. We were going to come home with some deals. And we were just prepared to have a go. Some of those properties we let go. 2 of them we let go over the years, and 2 of them we've still got that have performed really, really well.
Wow.
So I just think have a crack. Just, write it down, guys. If you're sitting there
If
getting a
you're
start,
still listening.
have a start. Just wherever you feel comfortable, but just have a go. Because, not doing it, the saddest people in student groups, yours, mine, and everybody else's, are the people who sit by and watch other people do things and feel a little bit triggered by other people's success or by what other people are able to accomplish. And the big gap is just jumping in and having a bit of a start, getting started. Because once you get a start, you get some confidence, you get some momentum,
Yeah.
and then you can build on the types of deals you do. And your network builds, your knowledge builds, your confidence builds, everything becomes easier. You build your team. Just everything just becomes easier once you make a start somewhere.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. Thanks for that insight. So last question, what's next for you after this reno?
Well, I'm certainly not going to retire because that just would drive me crazy. When I say retire, I mean sit around doing nothing. I'll always be renovating or buying or helping people with their renos or their designs or whatever it is they need help with, because that's just what I love to do and that excites me every day when I wake up. So that's it. That's it. Until they carry me out in a box, I think. Because I'm a bit weird.
I was more asking about the project side of things.
Other projects. Okay, so
Uh,
I would really like to do just a local in my local area, and I know that you'd explored it again with the group that the developer group, and there's a lot of opportunity locally to me.
Yeah.
And so I'll be doing just a side-by-side simple townhouse development. That's my next deal.
Okay. A duplex.
Yeah,
Yeah, a duplex in Sydney is 3 million a side
I know.
or
I know.
more,
Yeah.
or more in some of those areas.
There's some awesome margins locally
Oh,
here.
it's fantastic margins.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually spoke to a guy a number of years ago, who literally just did duplexes in Sydney, and he was making a couple of $1 million per duplex. They were very high end. Can't remember
Yeah.
exactly where they were, but that was literally his game. Build a duplex, sell one side, keep the other side,
Yeah.
and then just keep
I've
going. I
seen,
think he was onto his 4th one.
yeah, I've just seen it work very, very well around here. So I think, that feels, again, that level of safety, that feels quite safe for me. I could just do that, no problem. Build team, I've already had my team. So
Yeah. And people, the other thing is people are prepared to pay it
yeah,
in Sydney. If you're not in the building industry, and being in the building industry, there are challenges to overcome, as you know, there's challenges with everything, but if it was easy, everyone would do it. If it was easy, there wouldn't be profit to be made. But other people will pay you, especially in the higher end market. They will pay you for you to solve their problems, which is challenges with building a townhouse or a duplex, because they don't want to worry about it. Some people just don't want to worry about building. Actually, a lot of people, especially in the current market,
I agree. I
They don't want
agree.
to worry about building. Even in certain market segments, because I know the cost of building and I know the cost of developing, there's some developments where I would buy the end product and I wouldn't want to be the developer because I know the margin they're making. So why would I want to be the developer in certain instances where I could put that money to better use or do my own developments that would make more margin? There's just no point.
Agreed. And there just so many people love to dive into that finished product.
Yeah.
And even, you know, from the renovation side of things, and the same with all of us, obtaining property now, getting deals is tougher than it was. But the final product, selling them, that's not as tough as it was because the media really helps us along. The media says, oh, you know, it's really hard to get builders and it's really expensive to build right
Yes,
now. And
yes.
they put the doom and gloom on the average buyer. So the average buyer says, and the real estate agents, they know how to work it too. They're like, go and buy this one. It's already done, move in
Yeah.
ready. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Hit the
suits,
nail on the head.
yeah,
Because
suits developers
I
like,
get a lot, I'm sure you get a lot of inquiry. People like, oh, I don't want to develop at the moment.
yeah,
I'm like, well, that's fine. You and just about everybody else doesn't want to, but what about the people that are developing at the moment? They're actually making more margin in most instances.
yeah,
There's more margin to be made now than there ever has been, at least the last however many years I've been involved, 13 years. There's more
yeah.
money to be made in the building industry, if you get it right, of course, than what I've ever seen in the last over a decade.
I agree. Adam, you've been in the game for a while. And so you've seen that when one thing changes, then it has an impact further down the track. So when it's really, really simple to buy, then, you know, then it's
Harder
not.
to sell.
So, you know,
Yeah.
everyone says to me, oh, does renovating still work? Or does property development, does investing still work? And yeah, you just things change, you know, and from state to state, area to area. And just what's happening every year is a little bit different. Interest rates high, interest rates low. Brett and I have just bounced along through it all, as have a lot of people over these years. And it's always better to have a crack. It's just
Yeah. We saw the high interest rates in the 80s and then the crash of the 90s, which I've only seen on graphs, not personally experienced.
We struggled when we were first married. We just built, we had a massive loan at that point, and the interest rates were 17.7%. It was hard.
Wow.
So Brett worked overtime, I worked overtime, we ate mincemeat and had spaghetti bolognese 3 nights a week. Like seriously, we struggled.
Yeah.
We didn't have as many clothes and shoes as we do now.
And you
But we
definitely
just
didn't go to restaurants and eat smashed avocado.
absolutely not at all. It
That
wasn't
wasn't
even
even a thing up until the
wasn't even a
last few
thing.
years.
But you know what? That didn't last all that long either. Like that passed. And then the interest rates just came down and came down and came down. And our property prices kept going up, whether the interest rates were higher or not. We compare at $53,000 for a unit at Cronulla. How many should I have bought, Adam? How many?
A few, as many as you could
Oh,
buy.
I know. I know.
A lot, but
A
you did
lot.
okay.
We did all
By the
right.
sounds. You did
Yeah.
okay. But now for like the next generation, the next 10, 20, 30 years, and just recently, like I started to talk about, there is going to be no pension because the stats are there's only going to be basically 2.5 people working in the next 20 years
Yeah,
for every
agree.
person over the age of 65. So it's scary what's coming around the corner. And
Do you know what's scary? The amount of people I speak to, men and women who are in their 50s, who say to me, I want to retire by the time I'm 60. And I look at their portfolio and I think, you just can't, you won't be able to. Some people are still renting. And I think, get started somehow. It's never too late to get started. But
absolutely,
where
yeah.
did all those years go? But people still have years ahead of them. You can do a lot in 12 months, but you can do a lot more in 5 years.
Yeah,
So
I think the next 5 years will be a game changer
yeah,
too.
me too.
Yeah, the
Me
next
too.
5 years is going to be crazy, as in crazy good.
Yeah, me too. I agree.
Yeah, and then that affordability gap is going to really like be spread even further than what it is, which is unfortunate for people that don't own properties, but for people that do, the wealthier are going to get wealthier, the richer are going to get richer, and unfortunately, that wealth divide is going to get bigger,
Oh,
which is a shame, but it is what it is, and that's
yeah.
the economy that we live in.
I'm very, very excited that my 3 kids are property owners or one's buying now. So I'm just so excited because some of their friends, I mean, I've heard the conversations at the local at the local barbecues at my place. I've heard the round table conversations from the kids who didn't leave home till they were about 30 from their friends. But, you know, a lot of them have already given up. A lot just say, look, if I want to maintain my lifestyle of travel and eating well and wearing nice clothes and driving a nice car, then I'm just going to rent. And I'm just terrified about people giving up. I'm not terrified about people making well-informed decisions about renting or property ownership, that, you know, so long as they're informed and they've got a goal and a path and they're on their way. But when people give up, like, I'll never be able to get anywhere, so I'm just going to go and live life like there is no tomorrow, that just makes me a bit nervous for this next generation.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next generation will be a generation of renters.
Yeah.
As well. And maybe they'll inherit some property from their parents if their parents have got some. I know there's some people waiting around for that, but if you're waiting for an inheritance, I'll be waiting a long time for my
Yeah,
parents.
I'm going to live till I'm 99. My kids
Everyone's
are
living
for a
longer
while.
now. The average age is going to go to like about 90, I think, is the average age.
Oh, that's good.
10, 20 years. Oh, we'll all get to 90 or 100. That'll just be normal.
Exactly. That's my plan.
And hopefully bionic arms and legs and things. We'll see. If you've got money, I'm sure they'll be able to sort out all those things for us.
Unless Brett and I wear ourselves out on a reno.
On a hammer. For the love of it. Well, thank you so much, Belinda, for your time. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure everyone that's listening will have gotten a lot of value from you and hearing about your story. And hopefully you've motivated some women to get started and those other people that are doing nothing to have a crack.
Have a crack. 3 words.
Yes, absolutely. Completely agree with you.
Brilliant.
It's just about having
much.
a crack multiple times, I think.
And if you're listening to this and you haven't signed up or joined Adam in any way, I
thank you.
suggest that you do. You know, Adam is he's really available for his students and always does a great job with his information. Is spot on. His knowledge is next level, and that's why I aligned with Adam to, you know, take my own property journey one step further. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, thank you so much, Belinda, for the kind words. And I'll leave it at that. Thanks everyone for watching.